is a statistic that will sit with you. 72% of business owners say cybersecurity is their number one technology concern. But only 2% have actually done anything structural about it. That gap, 72 to 2, is not a knowledge problem. Founders know the risk is there. They know the systems they run on are aging. They know their team's productivity hinges on technology nobody is actively maintaining. The reason nothing happens is simpler and harder. The infrastructure works until it doesn't. The cybersecurity is fine until it isn't. The facility runs until something breaks. So it stays at the bottom of the list until the day it isn't a back burner problem anymore. And by then, the cost is no longer optional. Today's guests spend their time in that gap. They help companies see the operational machinery they have been running blind on and fix it before the bill comes due. Today, we're talking with Joe Iannone and Rick Munger. And they are the owners of Eiger Creative. I hope I said that right. Hey, guys, welcome. And hi, Nate. Let's get into it.
Yeah, welcome. So, as Simone said, we're joined today by Rick and Joe. Rick is the CIO and owner of Eiger Creative, which is a IT consulting and business process firm he founded in 2004. Rick has a background in mechanical engineering and computer information technology. He studied at UConn and Central Connecticut State and has spent his career as a user interface designer, data architect, and application strategist for companies you have heard of: ESPN, Pitney Bowes, Cigna, IBM, United Technologies, Grumman, Otis Elevator, Sikorsky, Travelers, Lincoln Financial, Chase Bank. That is quite a litany. And the list goes on. He has worked across manufacturing, warehousing, retail, oil and gas, healthcare, marketing, and insurance. And he has founded multiple companies and built multiple software products, including Dose Planner and QR Meds for healthcare, and VFM, the Visual Facility Management Platform, we're going to talk a little bit about today. So Rick is not just an advisor on this stuff. He's actually shipped product out here. Joe Iannone, excuse me, leads business development at Eiger Creative and brings a different lens. Joe has spent his career inside healthcare, food service, and hospitality. Food service and hospitality, military, commercial, and industrial sectors, helping sales and operations team align around strategy. The reason I wanted both of them in the room is because the most useful conversation about operational infrastructure happens at the intersection of two perspectives: the architect who can see how the systems actually work, and the business person who can see why companies keep avoiding the conversation in the first place. That is where we're going to get into today. So, welcome, guys. Joe, you have worked across more industries than most consultants ever see in their career. When you sit down with a service business today, regardless of the vertical, what's the pattern that you keep seeing around how they think about their technology and operational infrastructure?
Yeah, Nate and Simone, pleasure to be here. I just want to say
Yeah.
that right off the bat. And Rick and I are both honored to take some time out of our day and yours to be able to bring up this critical infrastructure. And it's not an oversight so much. It's just and it's funny because in the background we have the Eiger Creative logo, which is Eiger Mountain in Switzerland. It's one of the most revered mountain climbing destination, and it's really, for us, it's not just a mountain, it's a mindset. You know, we're the Sherpas that take people from the baseline all the way up to the summit. And then once you get there, you also have to come back down. A lot of people don't think about that. They think, let's scale up and get to the mountain. Yeah, you're right, but you have to come back. It's nice to scale up the mountaintops, but we live in the valleys. And that kind of leads into what we're trying to do here is that, as Simone had mentioned, a lot of businesses just show up. They show up each day, they put the computer on and hope that it works. Even before this, the podcast today, there were some technical issues, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I know we got to laugh because it happens, right? Just like as Forrest Gump, says, it happens. And what we try to do is understand that a lot of things happen. You can't take everything out of the equation, but what you can do is mitigate it. You know, we try to free up companies to do what they're designed to do, what their talent brings them to do, not to put out fires and not have to be responsible for the back office, which is usually the IT. You know, we think of the IT as, you know, okay, call Rick or call Joe and they'll fix it. But there's a lot that can be done before that. But it's a mindset of being proactive, as Simone had brought up so eloquently, and Nate the same way. So most businesses, though, like you said, with the 72%, 72% are aware of cyber, just one aspect, cybersecurity. Yet only 2% have anything implemented for that. This is a statistic. So, you know, and then they're concerned when something happens. What we try to do is take the guesswork out of that. We help them to put systems in place. So when something does occur, they're not only used to it, but they don't get emotional. We know scientifically that the brain responds at an emotional level, the primal part of the brain, right? Fight, flee, or freeze. What we try to work on is the prefrontal cortex. We try to make everything come to a section that it's not an immediate response. It's like, okay, we planned for that, you know, and we fire stations, police, EMTs, military, they all have the same theme, and that is let's prepare. Let's do some mock trials so we're ready when this occurs.
Alrighty. So, Rick, you've been on the technical side of this for 30 years. From where you sit, how has the actual infrastructure underneath these businesses changed in the last decade or so? And where are most operators still, excuse me, where are most owners still operating on outdated assumptions?
That's a loaded question.
Take your time.
So the first part of your question, the infrastructure hasn't really changed all that much. The tools changed, the players stay the same type of thing. We've seen the introduction of AI. We've seen the introduction of newer products and so-called newer ways of doing things. But when you tear it all down, it's a new face on the same stuff. AI is really advanced automation. Yes, it can do some of its own thinking, but for the most part, it's still got to be guided by humans. The other tools that are out there, older ones are fading and newer ones are coming in. You analyze them, they have a new face on them. They're still doing the same accounting. They're still doing the same business processes. There's some new tools and new ways of doing things that are great, though. To that end, we're taking advantage of and introducing our clients to as many of these new tools as we can in order to get the most productivity that they can, be as most profitable as they can.
Would you say that it's like what's happening with these new tools is really just helping businesses to do the same things just faster and easier?
And that's, you hit the nail on the head. It's allowing them to do things faster and easier. Like with AI, what can it do for you? We've implemented it to go and do a lot of the menial tasks of data entry. So that way people don't have to sit there and scrape all the information and enter it into a spreadsheet. AI can do that for you. So those are simple things where it's a wonderful application for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just had a conversation last week with a AI expert. That show's coming out here actually today, but on my channel anyway. But he talked a lot about you don't want to just let AI kind of do its thing and free of human intervention. You definitely have to stay on top of it. But anyway, yeah.
It needs
So
checkpoints.
yes, exactly. All right, so let's get into it, I guess. we're going to start with the first segment here. What business owners, what founders get wrong, specifically as it relates to what you guys have to offer here. And in my mind, anyway, it sits in the viability layer of the V3 system that I talk a lot about. Visibility, viability, and value. So internal systems are either supporting growth or they're eroding it, right? And it seems like the challenge with IT and operational infrastructure is that when it's working, nobody knows. It's like out of sight, out of mind. It's invisible, but it gets ignored until it stops working, right? That's the problem, and then it becomes one of the most expensive problems in the business to solve, right, or to fix.
That's what we call
Um,
no news is good news. Like, I
yeah,
don't hear
yeah,
about it. I don't need to
yeah,
think about it. It's all good.
yeah,
Everything's great.
yeah. It's like you don't think about the plumbing in your house until you hit a leak, right? That's the same
Yeah,
thing.
right.
Um, yeah. So
As an IT technician, that's one of the sayings that was always said is,
yeah.
if you screw up, everybody knows your name. If you do the good job,
Right.
nobody knows who you are,
Right.
or even why you're justified to work there.
Mm.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. What is it you do here? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Joe, going back to that, it's the 72% stat that you mentioned here. Um, what's going on in that gap there? Why does the concern not translate into action?
It's probably a combination of complacency, just a little bit of ignorance, thinking the same thing that, if nothing's happening wrong,
Yeah.
then why am I thinking about it? But yet, we have two services that we do focus on, and I know we'll get into it. We call it the IT tune-up, which is an assessment. We gather information of what's important, not just cybersecurity, but software updates, integration, optimization, efficiency. There's a whole slew that makes it better. And but it's not a malicious event that's occurring by founders, owners, vice presidents, any key people of an association. It's just that we're busy, we show up and we
Yeah.
expect things to run.
Yeah.
And I think most of us own cars or some type of a vehicle, right?
Yeah.
And to think that you're gonna get by with no oil changes, and no tune up, uh, not putting gas in the car, and just doing the basics, even car wash, or just analyzing, what's happening. It's not going to last. I mean, you're probably going to get from A to B, but if you're ready to take a 400-mile trip or a 200-mile trip, what do you think the chances of somebody that has been proactive and doing all those things ahead of time to somebody that's never had an oil change or never had a
Yeah.
tune up or never done anything? They just want to get in their car and expect it to go.
Yeah.
You
You
know,
can't account for luck though, Joe. In that case,
no,
right?
and you're right. I mean, common sense is not common, right? They say, but we just
Yeah.
try to make it easier. All we're trying to do, Rick and I, is just make people aware. And if they're aware, then they can act more responsibly. And then, unlike other MSPs, multi-service providers, managed service providers, is that we show them, like, we will take them through the process, and we'll also show them what we did. A lot of MSPs do not do that. They want to keep it a secret. They'll charge every month, whether you use their services or not. We're more fractional IT support. So that's how we're a little different than most, is that we're project based. We come in, we help, we're outside, educate the team. Whatever questions you have, we'll help them. And that's where I think that most companies think that this is an expense, where it should be an investment. It's two mindsets, it's two attitudes that are completely different. But once they understand that they have a team of people, and we have a team that work with us, they're all specialists, that they will understand. It's like going to a dentist, right? We all have to go to a dentist. Even if you have no cavities, you have to go because you're trying to avoid pain depending on what you have.
Yeah.
I just rather go and get it over with and make sure that I know. And then they always give you a proposal. Here's what's going wrong.
Yeah.
And then you take it wherever you want to do.
Yeah.
And it's just like us. We're just overseers. But the best part, we'll step back. We'll educate and step back. And I think most companies just think of IT, and Rick can chime in on this. They have their own idea of what IT companies are, or even departments within companies. And we're there to support IT within companies. In addition, if you don't have any, or you have one or two, or you have a dozen, then we're there to help support them. We're not the bad guys. We're actually the very good guys, because we're just pointing out what needs to be done.
All right. I'm going to have a follow-up to that here in a minute, but so Rick, from the technical side, when you are walking into a small business that's been operating on the same setup for 5 or 10 years, let's say, what's the gap between what the owner thinks is happening and what is actually happening on the network, let's say?
I think some of it goes back to what Joe mentioned at the outset, it's often it's not malicious. It's the owner is looking at what's the biggest priority on their radar. It's getting their own product out the door, whatever that is. And to that end, yes, a lot of the thought pattern is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Also, when it comes to security, they're looking at it and saying, well, why would anybody ever want to attack me? Well, it's not about attacking you. It's about using you as a pawn to get to some other guy, is what they really want, or use your resources so that way you get blamed and they don't. So, but for the most part, we're when we walk into a place, we're looking at their facilities, and yes, we're analyzing the age of their equipment, the age of their software, and in the old days, running old software was not a problem, but in the age of the internet, that spells security problem. So we're looking at these things and looking for any kind of exposures that we can. Security being a major thing that we look at, but we're looking to make these things work faster, better. Yes, it sounds like the $6 million man, but it's we can rebuild it better, faster. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this is kind of an open question to both of you. Do you, I'm assuming, but what is it costing businesses to kind of just let this ride and not be proactive?
Yeah, I mean, there's a course that I took, statistical analysis in college, and I got a lot from it. It's funny, you're a business guy, right? You're taking a course like that, but it was a course also on life, because no matter what decision you made, there's a probability to it, and no decision has a probability. It's people think that if you make no decision, then nothing will happen. No, it's if you make no decision, two things are going to happen. It's either going to be a bad thing or it's going to be a good thing. And even if it's a good thing, it might not be a great thing. It could have been better. And so it goes back about, what do people perceive their day is going to be? Like Rick had said, they're in the business to do their business. If they're a yacht maker, they're there to make yachts. But to make a yacht, and this is what's great about it, we really are passionate about what we do, because we can meet so many different businesses. This applies to every business pretty much. We haven't seen one that we haven't tackled. The other day, we had an oil refinery fellow come to us from Saudi Arabia, and they want to be able to visually see what's going on. And we're going to help them. So, but the point is that that everybody needs to do their business. What they do not need is, they don't need things to happen in the back of the house that is going to delay them. And there's a cost to that. So really, again, to think of this as more of an investment than a cost would be better for most businesses to see it that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So when it happens, and I guess this can be for you, Joe, you using that phrase of the IT tune-up, specifically kind of bring, like you said, mentioned earlier, it's kind of like maintaining a car or vehicle, right? And keeping it tuned up. So what would you say changes when a business owner treats it the way they would treat their car? Um, you know, as far as like, regular tune-ups and that kind of thing, instead of being more reactive on the other
Yep.
side when something breaks.
Right. Yeah. So every business has a budget to work with, you know, and what this does is help them take that budget and allocate it accordingly. New computers, new server, uh, new employees. It's funny because we were talking with a company the other day, very successful in their space. Their space is educating executives to communicate better with their teams. And this is exploding right now because the amount of people that qualified people that want to come to work for a company is less than it ever was. It used to be that people wanted to go to work. Yes, they needed to make money, but they put in 30 years with a company. I would say, raise your hand. If you get to a group, we'll go to 300 people, 1,000 people, and we'll ask the same question. Maybe a dozen or so people will raise their hand. It's just not there as it was. Now, with companies, they're aware of this. So to have their employees show up for work and contribute and know that the executive level is also wanting to contribute to bring the best out of them, to make an environment that they not only are surviving but thriving. It's not about the paycheck as it was perhaps once, but it's more. It's about the collaboration, the especially in the younger years for a lot of people coming into companies, they want to do the best they can. It's funny. There's a guy, Arthur C. Brooks, who is a professor at Harvard, and he brings this concept together all the time, and that's about satisfaction, happiness, and especially at work. And when businesses understand it's not just about employees, it's about employees being satisfied, so they are doing the work the best of their ability. And with AI and with these systems in place, you're able to get more out of the employees. And really, to your question, Nate, is that with IT tune-ups, we work with businesses to formulate what's the most important thing to take care of. Is it cybersecurity? I think everybody would agree. Is it software that's outdated? Uh, any integration, any automation that can be done with manual tasks, like Rick had mentioned in the beginning. These are all the things we look at. We rank them and we price it out with a proposal. So at the end of all this, they will have a proposal that they help to create, right? And they're going to bring on key people with departments, and everybody's going to be on the same communication level. So they're going to have that budget, and they're going to be able to do. It's like eating the elephant. How do you do that? One bite at a time. You can't
Right.
do this all at once.
Yeah.
You just take small little parts of it and just solve that. So we make it very comfortable with them, because what happens a lot of times, they lose hope. Simone, you brought this up, is that people lose hope that, new software is going to cost us $10,000. I don't have that right now. So what do? Nothing. Okay. And we find out, or a lot of institutions, there's a university, we're based out in Connecticut. I'm from Massachusetts. There's a university in Connecticut, can't say the name. We did some work with them, and we did just a regular flyby, a casual external penetration, and found out that there were two ports that were exposed. There was outdated software. There was integration that should have been done better. They had a staff of, about a dozen people in the IT. And when we turned over that information, it seems like the business psychology is, let's figure out what happened there, and protecting their jobs and titles more than protecting the institution.
Hmm.
And in Columbia University, this is public information, is that there was a breach and 300,000 people were affected. Now, what is that? It means a cost because they have to provide um, a malware software that protects against malware, and that cost alone is going to be tremendous. But
Mhm.
the brand, Nate, the brand, Simone,
Yeah, yeah.
that's the problem. Is that
Yeah.
there's so many companies that we know of that took hits because of their field complacency, their complacency with just letting things happen instead of taking a proactive approach.
Mm, mm, mm. So the cost in that case is the damage it does to the brand, not to mention monetarily. So it's kind
Correct.
of double whammy there.
Right.
At least two, if not more. But
A question. Sorry, Nate, jump in
no,
here.
go
Um, so would you say that it's a bit of doing some work on their mindsets
Mhm.
and kind of helping them to shift their beliefs a little bit before you can even really work with them or before they can adopt what it is that you're trying to do?
Yeah, so when you bring up a good topic, like I said, we're working with a company that's all they do. They work with corporations starting at the executive level, but the buy-in has to be not only with one person. The that person that's so called in charge, and we deal with all C-levels, is that we ask them to bring in other people from other departments, even if it's a medium-sized small business, whatever it is that we want them to have that type of communication and engagement. So that mindset is not just one person, but a collection of minds and what challenges. It's all about the challenges, the needs, the pain points. Everybody wants to talk about pain points. Well, people have them, and to hide them is just to defer that to a later date instead of this is your one chance. Take it. Let's bring
ahead.
everybody in, get a contribution, and then everybody feels like they've contributed. And you know what Rick and I are okay with it because we're out to help them. We don't want the credit. The last thing we want is credit. We just want thank you for helping us to be more aware of the issues that we have, and the cost of it was minimal compared to what we got out of it. And we're not just planting the seed now for Simone. We're
Mhm.
planting it for the future.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. I'm hoping it
it
does.
does. It makes sense. It makes sense.
As an Italian, I love to have a garden. So everything's food. I make a great pesto, I'm told. It's all organic, basil, parsley, garlic, all that. And I put it together. And you know what? I think I give out more than I actually eat because and we have pesto parties sometimes. We'll bring people in, show them how to make pesto, and they're happy and they make it on their own. And it's okay. I don't lose anything. I gain people because they feel better. We do the same thing with the business. When we educate them and bring them in and show them what we did, they may not want to know everything about, you know, what is going
Yeah.
on.
Mhm.
But do you want to? So when you get your car fixed, I remember I have five. I'm blessed with five children and four girls, one boy. Yeah, God really took care of this. Nothing like, So I'm women in your life, and I love them. Believe me, is that I always mention, especially to my daughters, is that when somebody fixes your car, just take a couple extra minutes and go over what they did. And
Yeah.
and I'm telling you, they at the end of it, they asked the right questions and they felt comfortable about what people did, and the mechanics or whoever was in charge of their vehicle and what they did, they felt that they also took an interest, and maybe you can't do everything all at once, but you still have an understanding of what's being done, and Rick does a great job with this. He's not just been my partner, he really does. We teamed up years ago because unlike most people, they just want to do it and get it done. Rick has a really compelling story when he worked for a company that he had. He was in one cubicle, another guy was in another cubicle, and the members of the employees used to be able to come to both of them. The one guy would just do it and get it done, and wouldn't tell him anything. And Rick, I hope I'm telling the story right, but Rick would just take that extra few couple of minutes And if they wanted to know, he'd explain it to them. And then afterwards, the other guy said to Rick, he's like, why would you want to tell them about what, what we do and what you done? And Rick, what did you say to him?
His opinion was is that he was all about protecting job security. And I told him, I says, no, you're thinking about this all wrong. The whole idea is to give away as much information as possible. And he says, but why? And he said, because if they view you as a source of information, they're going to come back to you all the time. So you not giving out the information, now they're viewing you as somebody that's in the way.
Yeah.
And
It become more of a resource rather than just the guy with the wrench, that just fixes all the nuts and bolts. Like, I can actually come to you for information, and you can help me and point me in the right direction. I can get anybody to with the wrench to fix the nuts and bolts, but the person who's going to sit and explain it to me in a way that I can understand, well, that's the guy that I want to keep around.
Having been the salesperson who had to go and talk to engineering, I can totally appreciate this,
You know what the
because
funny thing is, Nate? You know what the funny thing here is? Watch this. It's like with that attitude that Rick and I have, and it transfer all our team members, is that we're almost putting ourselves out of business sometimes, because the more it's like in a, if you have a medical situation, I help with the community and I'm involved with that too. I try to get involved with just a little bit of everything that I do. You want to triage so that people get better with the initial issues, that after a while that they'll have a good understanding. So we educate them enough, and people that want to learn more will help them more. So they're solving a lot of these things even before they get to us. So how does that help the company? Goes back to what you're saying, Nate. How does it help the company? It saves them money when they call us.
so much time saved.
Exactly. And it's like we're putting ourselves out of bit, but we're not, because we're helping them to think about it a little differently. So when they do call us, we're really helping them. We're really getting down to something that
you don't feel like you're being a burden on.
No,
it's just
the
trying
funny
to
part
something,
about
get them
it
out of
is
the way.
what ends up happening though is after a while of doing this in this fashion of giving away the information to help promote better educated clients, I find that my wife is getting asked questions and people are expecting her to know. She says, look, just because I'm married to the guy doesn't mean that I know all these things.
Right.
But,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's got to be a joke in there about pillow talk. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
There is, but yeah.
Go ahead.
All right.
No, there is one. There is one. And our wives keep us very humble. Our wives know each other, even though we're 2.5 hours away. I say my favorite pie is humble pie, slightly warm with a little French vanilla ice cream and some nutmeg.
Yeah. Favorite dessert. Yeah.
Sure.
All right. So can you guys give us an example? You can anonymize it if you want to, of a business that thought their technology was fine right up until the moment that it wasn't. What was going on underneath that no one could see, and ended up being bad.
I'll give you a good one. I had an assignment at a client, a large insurer, and they said one of our departments is having a problem. And can you walk down the hall and go check it out and find out what's going on? Well, that department was in charge of 11 urgent care centers around the nation. And one of the problems they saw IT as being the big impediment, and they didn't want to go through IT. So they hired some people and did it themselves. Well, they created a whole system using Excel and using Microsoft Access, which was great, except the size of running 11 urgent care centers, large urgent care centers, the amount of data that was coming in took 30 days to process. Just to process the incoming information. So by the time they got the decisions, the information back to the urgent care centers, the people in charge over there couldn't make the decisions because it was 30 days too late.
Oh my
They needed
gosh.
the information right away. So they asked me to step in and see what I could do. So we stepped in, took a look at it. First, you look at they're underpowered. They're running everything off of a desktop, off of a laptop. It wasn't going to run that way.
Mhm.
Moved it to an official database, not Microsoft Access. Basically gave them the right tools. Once you supplied them with the proper tools, now everything ran in 3 days.
Hmm.
Data coming in on the first day, they could make their decision on the second day and put it into action on the third day.
Wow.
They were done. The company claimed that I saved them $200 million. You know, I wish today that I got paid as a percentage, but
Was that yeah,
And
yeah.
More from now on.
but that
Was that
was
just
a good example of taking a look at the situation and saying, look,
Yeah.
you're using the wrong tool set. Let's get you up to date. Let's address the problem
Hmm.
where it's
I would
causing.
imagine the 200 million was just in man hours, not to mention
Part of it
the all the mess that it created in
Part of it
excess.
was
Yeah,
man hours. Part of it was real money because it was
yeah.
sales not being achieved.
Oh, okay. The opportunity cost. Yeah, good grief.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, okay, great example. Um, all right, so let's get into your framework, your approach to things, um, how you're actually thinking about this. So, most business owners out there, if they're being honest, they probably would say that they have no real idea what a healthy technology and operations posture even looks like for a business their size. So when a founder hires you guys, what is the actual work that gets done here? So first off, I guess walk us through the cadence of an IT tune-up. So you talk about weekly, monthly, quarterly. What's happening at each of those intervals, and why does that cadence matter?
Yeah, Rick, I'm going to let you go
Yeah.
ahead because
Well,
you start.
the cadence matters. We usually recommend a quarterly review, and part of the reason is because most businesses run at a particular speed, um, and if and certainly there are companies that go and do their IT tune-ups either on a continuous basis or they do it on a monthly basis. Um, a lot of times you're not going to find anything, or you're not going to find anything of significant value with the cadence being too fast.
Yeah.
That's why we feel that doing it on a quarterly basis, we're actually going to find something of value that they can actually work on. Something that is of significant nature. So
Do you have people who, irregardless, they would prefer a more, monthly situation because they're just that, you know.
for certain
Yeah,
for certain aspects,
yeah,
they would prefer. Yes, we
yeah.
would implement, for instance, a security system. So
Mm,
maybe they bring us in, and as an example, they bring us in. We look at things and find a security defect of
mm,
some nature. So we implement a security program of, at least we recommend one that's U.S. made, and we would install that and monitor it over a period of time. That's continuous. So we look at that, and if it brings up particular issues, we'll make the customer aware of that. But the other
okay.
quarterly reviews we would still continue to do, but those are going to look at other things like business processes, automations, other ways to help the customer either save money or implement things to allow them to make more money. So
Okay. Are you sending out, regular updates and that kind of thing, or is it you're just getting together with the business owners and the stakeholders and going over the review at that point, or?
we go over the review at that point
Gotcha.
after we do it. One of the latest things that we did is we did a review for a chain of pharmacies, and they were complaining that they're losing money to the insurance companies and pharmacy benefit managers that are not reimbursing them. We looked at it and says, well, with your online systems, you're out here, you're posting these videos. What if you gave your clients a way to recommend associated products? By that I mean is, if a prescription makes you sick to your stomach, because that's one of the side effects of the prescription, why not recommend the Pepto-Bismol, the other things that help the patient with nausea? So tie in these products so that way they're going to be a benefit and they're front of mind for the client. So it's a little bit of marketing, but it's also a way to now help the client with an idea that is a fairly simple thing. So
As far as like getting technical here on the IT tune-ups, what are you actually inspecting?
we're looking at security, we're looking at business automations, we're looking at interfaces to other products, either the lack of an interface or that they're using an interface that they shouldn't. Maybe that interface is not secured. We look at the way people are using online products to find out if they're protected. Are they using a VPN? Is it possible for somebody to break in and steal information from them? Are they complying with various standards like HIPAA or SOC 2, or there's a ton of different standards that they would need to go to. So we're doing all of that, and in the end, we're also looking at things like I mentioned with the pharmacy one, even looking so far as to say that coming up with ideas for them to improve their sales processes. And then with that, we're implementing the IT systems to help them do these ideas.
And Nate, let me just add if I can. So, I mean, we have a whole checklist of, if you mentioned cybersecurity, can we do a penetration test? And there's different types of that, right? Just to see vulnerabilities, areas of what's the password policy going on? Like who has the password? How complex is it? What are their roles? What are their permissions for the different employees? What level? Is there a zero trust strategy in place right now? What HIPAA laws? Rick was mentioning about, healthcare facilities. What are the HIPAA rules, and how is that IT affected? If you talk about hardware, what is the age of the network infrastructure? Do you have a desktop hardware? Is it up to date? Are there mobile devices tied into this? Software assessments, we'll go through some of the software. Is there a license that's coming up? What is the process? What's a current system? It really is looking at, how about a disaster recovery assessment? I mean, in other words, we bear down in this. We're not just, and what we do is we share, we'll send out this assessment to people so they can complete a lot of it and have it done. So by the time they get to us, they're talking about it. And this is what I mean. So there is, just like you have a structure in this podcast, you have to have some cadence, like you said. And we do that right off the bat with them.
One of the issues that Joe brought up, a great issue. Everybody may think of doing their backups and making sure that their system is protected. How many people actually do a test of the restore to make sure it works?
I was just going to ask, what are the things that like maybe an internal team overlooks that you guys are actually finding? That's obviously one of them. But
we had a client that was a large medical. They were heart surgeons. 5 doctors in the practice, maybe 30 people in the office helping them out. And they had office manager that's supposed to be doing the backups. It was their responsibility in the accounting office to make sure that the tapes got loaded every day. Simple tasks. And in those days, okay, they're adults. We didn't check on them weekly to find out if they were doing it.
Yeah.
The system goes down, they call us. We got things back up, but the data was 3 months old. So, and that was just from the recovery that we were able to do. We went to the accounting office to look for the tapes to say that, okay, we need something to bring us from 90 days old to current day. Where's the tapes? What tapes?
Yeah.
They,
Yeah.
they had lost, not only had they not done it, they lost the tapes. They lost all the tapes that they had. Nobody was doing it.
So Simone, it goes back to what you were saying, and you're very intuitive about this. I can tell is that are people asking the right questions when they go to work, or are they
Yeah.
just showing up for work? You
Mm.
know, but if they're empowered and the communication is there, and the people in the executive positions allowing them to be open and adventuresome and curious, I would say that curiosity is a good thing. It might have killed the cat, but it honestly actually is a great thing in business, because if leadership listens and they know people are trying to be curious for the right reasons, then everybody wins. And this is what we're hoping that they do, is that they're just asking the right questions. It's like the Socratic method, right? The
Mm.
Socratic method is just not providing the answer, but getting down to the root challenges. What are the issues? What keeps them up at 1 o'clock in the morning?
Mm.
Or if it's not keeping up, then maybe they should be aware of it at least.
Yeah.
It goes back to what, okay, so that person that we mentioned, does a person the next day say, oops, or do they really value their position and want the best? And look, things still happen, even though you have the best intentions, you do the best job. And that's really where we help out too, is that we just make those oops less often.
Mm.
And when the oops happens, we just have a system that will be able to get it back online quicker. And because it's backup systems, right? You know,
Mhm.
why do we run through tests all the time? I mean, the best surgeons in the world test all the time. They run through scenarios of things that could happen. And, we invite businesses, we love when businesses are doing that, not just doing what they do best, but thinking about what innovations they can do for the industry. Because the businesses, all this AI stuff that's happening, we love it, by the way. Rick will tell you that I challenge AI all the time. And and Nate, I think you know where I'm going with this, because we got visual facility management on there. I'm not going to
Yeah.
get into it, but
Yeah. Yeah.
you educate AI so it's thinking properly. You
Mhm.
educate people the same way so they're thinking properly for the right reasons. Because
Mhm.
we're humans, we want to think, we want good things to happen. Most of us want good things to happen. Um, and we really want it to happen for the company if we're fully engaged.
So, having testing set
Mhm.
up, backups, what other things do businesses need? What does a thoughtful IT posture look like other than that?
Well, while Rick is thinking, see, Rick's posture he's thinking is that, well, while he's thinking, um, depending on if it's healthcare, look, there's regulations, by the way. I mean, there's
Yeah.
regulations
That's
in a lot
true.
of
Yeah.
businesses.
Yeah.
And
And are they
compliance.
being compliant? Not
Yeah.
complacent. Are they being compliant
Yeah.
with the
Mm.
basic regulations of their industry? And we
Yeah.
help them. And if we can't do, we bring in experts that are specific for that industry to make sure they're meeting those obligations. So yeah, definitely testing, um, practicing, regulations, making sure things are up to date. Um, when we do IT tune-ups, remember, it's not everything doesn't have to be done now.
Yeah.
It doesn't, or it doesn't have to be done weekly. Like for instance, cyber protection, you can see that every day. We're tied in with a company that you could get a report every day if you
Mhm.
wanted to. Um, but it's more important that you get a report of issues
Yeah.
every day. Not
That
this.
way,
That's where we
if
come in.
everything is important, then nothing is, right?
Exactly, exactly. And then
Exactly.
updated software. I mean, you don't have to check that every, week or quarter.
Yeah.
But you still should check that. So again, there's very important things, and there's other things that are as important, but in a
Gotcha.
sequence, in a cadence, like you said.
Gotcha. Well, let's get into VFM, shall we?
Mhm.
So I'm guessing that most people out there have not heard of VFM. Um, they probably, once they realize what it does, are probably like, "This, where has this been all my life?" Most likely. So, Rick, you built this as a product. Can you walk us through what VFM actually does? I think Joe described it somewhere along the line as integrating facility data, asset tracking, maintenance schedules, and KPIs into a nice dashboard. Um, what else?
And yes, it does all of those wonderful things. The idea started very simply. The notion was is that we were involved with a particular client. The client was showing us, this is our dashboard from our facility management system that we have, and it's showing all these wonderful pieces of data. But it occurred to me, I says, you've got 7 buildings on your property. How can you tell? Show me all the ones that have heating problems.
Hmm.
And they're going, okay, they got to go here, we got to go there, oh no, let's change this. He
Hmm.
says, well, what if you could just bring up a picture of the site plan of your property,
Yeah.
and you can say, show me the heating problems, and 3 buildings would light up. And then
Hmm.
you click on the building and it drills down to, okay, it'll show you which floors of the building are having particular issues. Maybe it's a bad thermostat, maybe the furnace is bad, maybe the air conditioning is not working in particular floors, or it's too cold on one and too hot on another. Little issues like that.
Oh,
So
very
so
sci-fi. You
right.
see that
Yeah.
in
So
TV
the idea
shows.
was
Yeah.
yeah, so the idea was basically to apply a picture, a
Hmm.
blueprint of a
Yeah.
building, a site plan of a major property, whatever it might be. So that way the person can now see the data rather than just try
Yeah.
to find it
Hmm.
in mountains
Yeah.
of reports.
Way easier. It's like the difference between looking at a spreadsheet and looking at a chart, right? Like
Right. Yeah.
it's immediate, impactful. You can see where the all the outliers are and all that kind of stuff. I think it
And I
seems
and I
obvious now that
I
you
use a
mentioned it,
hotel
but
example where I say that I said, suppose there's a hotel with a shower problem. There's a leak on floor 5, and then the maids are reporting that there's ceiling problems on floor 4.
Mhm.
Nothing specific more than that. And on floor 3, there's wallpaper peeling, and they don't know
Right.
why. Okay, not until you line it up with the picture do you find out that all of those rooms are lined up
Yeah.
underneath each other.
Right.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
is where the power of the picture comes in. And that's what we're really bringing to the market here.
Oh yeah.
And Nate, the best part is that, so really this was a project that Rick and I both came up with and work with, and my side, the business development side, his side, operations, and how the magic is behind the curtain.
Hmm.
But to better understand, visual facility management, and we ask, if you go to Google, you type in visual facility management, you'll see Eiger Creative there and others. But what makes us a little different is, and let me just take a step back, and I think Rick, we probably agree on this one, is that you'd have to say, what is a CMMS system, which is computerized maintenance management system,
Yeah.
and this is a system that's used for organizations to manage assets.
Mm.
And there are a lot of those out there.
Yeah. That's more kind of like the common industry lingo, would you say,
Correct.
CMMS? Yeah.
It is. That's right. Now with VFM, Visual Facility Management, we're also using either their CMMS system, or we have one that we, can utilize. We can integrate with one. We can do a lot with CMMS systems because it's taking that system and utilizing the extraction and documentation of all assets in the building. An asset can be anything from a compressor, a pump, even a fire extinguisher. I mean, you think of
Yeah.
it, envision an empty building and then putting anything in there, computers and servers and anything. Um, Documenting that, making sure that you keep up with the age, the service that has been done on it, because again, it goes to budget. Because every
Mm.
year budgets have to be revised, and
Yeah.
what needs to be replaced. Okay, so you take that system, it's just on a spreadsheet most of the time,
Mm.
but if you can put that on a visual dashboard that you can now see some visual and intuitive visualizations. In other words, when is something going to
Yeah.
probably break?
Yeah.
Now,
And the
now you
potential
got
cost of that.
now you got something
Yeah.
because those are analytics that everybody would love to have, and we're trying to help them with it. Again, we have a questionnaire that people will just ask them to think about. Do you have blueprints for the facility? What are your key areas of monitoring? HVAC, electricity, water, cyber security, maintenance scheduling. What are the performance metrics that what you need? Is it energy? Is it downtime? Is it safety? Like we talked about compliance. Is it compliance?
Mm.
Do you currently have a CMS system? And they will say yes or no, or whatever. And then we'll work with what they have, or we'll provide one. And then those insights that we talked about is you're just trying to determine how long you can get the use out of the assets that you have. Now, this does bring in the documentation from manufacturers. Manufacturers, depending on, let's say it's piping, they'll know pretty accurately on certain flow how long piping will last, or how valves, these are things that are important because look, if it's a hospital setting and something goes down, they
Mm.
can't use the water or electricity, or some cyber attack occurred,
Mm.
you better believe it that, they have to have some systems in place already. So I'm hoping that's answering the questions
Yeah,
a little bit more, right?
I think so. I think so.
Yep.
What, so since you're the business development side, Joe, what, at what point does the founder or the
Mhm.
facility manager go from a polite interest to actually wanting this in their building?
So
How do
we
you know you've got them in
Yeah.
that?
And it's not right. It's not about get them. It's got the interest,
Yeah, I
right?
know. I
Got
know.
their
Yeah.
interest. It's about helping, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so with look with the IT tune-ups, that's simple, right? Every business needs them in some
Yeah.
form or another.
Hmm.
With the visual facility management, I would say that the facilities of all types definitely could use a CMMS system. They got to record. They have to document. They have to keep up on all compliances. So that's a given. It, but now where smart buildings are coming into play. So I would say that if you want to think about this, Rick and I subscribe to at least two or three facility type of management and periodicals,
Yeah.
and we see every week that more buildings are required to be smart. What does that mean? It means that, let's say with HVAC, that the temperature, the thermostats are tied in wired or wireless to a server, to a software. And then
Yeah.
if it's tied that way, then we can put that on a visual dashboard.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, Gauges, whether it's Johnson and Controls or Siemens or any other the other ones, we can take their information and put it on a dashboard. Now, are already existing? Yeah. I mean, the operations manager will see that the gauges are where they are. He just goes to a central location. But are other people that should be seeing that? Are they seeing it in an instant? We'll say yes, you can also see that if that's a KPI, if that's a key performance indicator, we'll put that on the dashboard. So it really comes down to, you know, okay, so if you're thinking about it, mostly medium-sized business, manufacturing facility, hospitality, obviously, hospitals, educational facilities, manufacturing facilities, even breweries. We joke, right? We love
Mm.
giving that. We're going to climb the mountain with you, but we're going to come down and have a couple of beers and burgers, and
Yeah,
talk about
yeah,
the stories, because
yeah.
everybody loves stories. Plato said those that tell stories rule society, and he wasn't wrong, because
Hmm.
everybody wants a good story. And you know what the best stories are? The stories that involve other people, and it's a success story
Mm.
where we were also involved, and we're honored to do so, because we love that we have so many stories on people that we've helped
Yeah,
and avert some major issues. That's the thing. The
yeah,
minor stuff you can get over. The major ones are difficult to get over.
yeah,
We just don't
yeah.
want to put them in that position.
I actually have a story about hiking up a mountain with a keg of beer in a backpack.
Yeah, yeah. I got a
That was
couple of
hard.
stories.
6 miles. Anyway,
Yeah,
all right.
great stories.
Um,
I climbed out Mount Washington. I mean, that's the highest peak we have over here.
this was Mount Rose near Tahoe. So yeah,
Oh, excellent. Great.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we're gonna have a couple of burgers and beers on that one. And Simone, please, we can have wine too, by the way. If beers aren't your specialty,
I'm
we're
more of a
seltzer.
soda person.
We're seltzer.
Yeah, yeah. Wise, Simone.
And a crudité
Uh,
platter. I love crudité.
We'll get her the hard
okay.
lemonade.
All right. So, Rick, you've been building software systems for decades. You have Dose Planner, QR Meds, VFM. What makes visual operation system actually useful in the long run versus, maybe like the normal dashboards that the business owners have been using and abandoned in 6 months?
Right now, the idea when we first thought of this and applied it, um, believe it or not, it was a novel thing that is not common in the industry with facility management. So we looked at it a little further and says, well, one of the ideas is let's make this available as a plugin to all these other systems. And that's good because now it adds a visual capability to them. And as Joe was just mentioning about the idea of saying, let's add real-time sensors. Okay, that could be as simple as tie into the Nest thermostats that you may have in your hotel. But it also could be something much more technical, like a petroleum refinery, and they're measuring the fluid that's going through the pipes, and they're trying to predict when are these things going to wear out. Well, they want our system. They want it to pop up on our system so that way they're going to get a warning in advance before the oil pours all over the ground.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so
Environmental
these are the
and
types of
economic disaster in that case. Yeah,
correct. So, I mean,
yeah.
we looked at all these things in order to bring these ideas into the limelight, so that way we can make
Mhm.
a truly a product that's worthwhile to stick around. So.
Okay, so Rick, you're also obviously we talked about this earlier about how you're focused on AI technology, and as it is applied to IT and business operations. So, what would you say, just to kind of shift a little bit here, what would you say is changing for small to mid-sized service businesses right now because of AI, and what do you think they should ignore?
Right now, there's AI engines being produced every day that can be used for certain things. Chat GPT is used and mainly is focused on helping people create better writing, better text.
Yeah.
That's good for that. Claude is great for doing more scientific type of things.
Mm.
There's AI engines that are out there to help programmers do their coding so they can get it done a lot faster. Um, the list is endless. I mean, there's so many different things that it can be applied to. So
Yeah. Okay.
It goes back, Data, but it goes back to what you were saying, and Simone was saying too, is that with AI, you want to use it effectively and efficiently to to gather a collective amount of information, right? That's mundane, that we don't want to do anyways, but gather it into an area, because the decision ultimately, we just need to make it faster. Um, it's not, and if you have more information, if you got all the facts, it's just allowing you to get past that one so you can address another one. So really, but it's not used to make the decision for you. That's when AI gets dangerous. And you had said that in the beginning of the program a little
Hmm.
bit, is
Yeah.
that when you allow AI to gather the information and make the decision, and again, we use it all the time, and I've actually prepped it to try to make a decision, and they're getting smart. They're saying, well, we can't make the decision because there's liability
Yeah.
with that, right? And they understand that really they just should present the cases, and the better you ask the questions of AI, the better information you're going to get back.
Hmm.
That's what we're finding. It's very intuitive to a point, but and it's funny. I was on a podcast this morning, and there was an artist there, and
Mm.
she was very good. And somebody asked her the question of what's AI doing with all the artists that they're losing their jobs? And she said, and I chimed in too, is that when AI can suffer like humans, then we might be able to have that discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
True.
one thing
True.
AI can't do yet.
That's true.
No, yeah, because her
Can't
art,
replicate the angst of an
Yeah.
well,
of a true artist, right?
yeah, exactly. I mean, she does a lot of work with pain that's happened in the past and putting it in art, and people love it. And it's the same thing with IT, with business, is that I'm going to give you one other statistic that the issue right now is that a lot of the older workforce are retiring. And you know
Yeah.
what's happening out there? This has been happening for years, is that they're taking their information, their knowledge, their secret sauces that they were working with on all these different shifts, first, second, third shift, and they're just retiring. And a lot of the smart companies, before they retire, like well before they retire, a year before they retire, not
Mm.
only are they asking them, and they'll pay them a little extra to educate the next group coming in, but they're documenting all
Hmm.
that intrinsic cultural knowledge
Yeah.
specific to their industry and specific to their business,
Yeah.
and they're putting it in a place that is valuable. That's what AI
Yeah.
is good for as well. You see?
Yeah,
The,
true.
that kind of hit the headlines here recently with Meta, who is forcing their employees to train AI to replace them, which is
Yeah,
just
that's not good. That's not what you want to
Right.
do.
yeah,
Yeah. You don't want,
that's kind of the
yeah,
opposite end of the spectrum there. I'd say,
that's a
Yeah,
but
bad way
yeah,
to
yeah.
do it.
You want to teach. You want to. So again, just think of it as accumulation, not teacher.
yeah,
Accumulation. And
yeah,
then once that data is accumulated, the next group of people, unlike what Meta, I'm not going to get into it, but unlike what they're doing, you
yeah,
want the new people coming in to be empowered that way,
yeah,
to have that. So the baseline increases to not zero information. No, we
yeah,
have this information. By the
yeah,
way, a person's done it for 20 years, and now we would like you to take that information, now incorporate what makes you great
yeah,
on that base, and then work from
yeah,
up from there. So
yeah,
so
yeah.
exponentially you get better.
I think wasn't this the promise of higher ed? Like giving everybody a leg up and allowing them to kind of like do a leapfrog of sorts, anyways, it's interesting idea. Um, okay, well, very good. So we talked a little bit about earlier about I know I want to be mindful of the time too. We're at almost 2:30 now. Are you guys okay? Or
Good. We're good. Yep.
we're good? Okay. All right. Um, we talked earlier about how you will give the businesses that you're working with, especially on the IT tune-ups, kind of like a list of things,
Mhm.
and they get to work on it before you actually get there. That way, it's already kind of like in their active memory, and they're ready to talk about it and that kind of thing. So, as far as the work that you're doing with the IT, the VFM and that kind of thing, what has to be true about the business strategy, the sales process,
Mhm.
the revenue system for what you guys do to actually help, in other words?
You understand the question, Rick?
No, not
Okay,
quite.
all right.
Yeah.
Do they need to have certain things certain things already kind of like in place, a baseline? In other words, are there maybe another way to put it is, are there businesses that you can't help because they're lacking certain things?
So some of the challenges that we've had, let's put it that way, some of the challenges we've had with working with businesses like that, number one, allowing us in. Well, was, if we're supposed to be the IT specialist and passwords and all that stuff, trust, trust. Do these businesses trust you enough to let you into their castle, right?
Yeah,
Let down the drawbridge. I mean, it's funny in the Middle Age. I like to bring visuals. The most vulnerable time, say you have a castle, you're letting a drawbridge down. Do you know the most vulnerable time of that? When the castle had to get supplies, right? They had to get food, they had to get all kinds of stuff. When was the most vulnerable time of the castle
when
to
the drawbridge is
outside
down.
forces? Right, when the
When
drawbridge is
yeah,
down, right?
yeah,
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 exactly. Because after
yeah,
that, the drawbridge is up. There's a
sure,
moat. It's all stone. You're not going to be able to penetrate it. It's the
yeah,
same thing with us with businesses. Is that they have to have a real commitment and a buy-in. If you don't have that attitude, Simone, you brought this up already too. If you don't have that willingness to trust, so Rick and I have to build up a certain level of trust fairly immediately with a business. Are they ready? It's like, are they ready for a change? Do they have the budget for a change? I mean, these are all, nobody wants to talk about money, but that's why we
hmm,
try to do a proposal. We rank things of the most important. Is cyber the most important thing? Okay, cyber
yeah,
protection, most important thing. And by the way, we have companies that we work with that have been proven that do it at the best cost efficient level. Okay,
hmm,
we have, you're not going to get the enterprise level. You're going to get a level that, is feasible within your budget. Replacing software. Do you have to replace it now, or can you just update it? You see, to be compliant in a certain industry, let's pull in somebody to figure out how past due you are. We're going to find most people are that the smarter ones have kept up. The other ones are just trying to survive. And Rick, you probably have specific examples of this, but it really is that trust that they have to give us to come in and set passwords and you know setting
hmm,
different levels of passwords. Would you
yeah.
try? I mean, in other words, you have to say, would you trust somebody with that type of information or integration?
I mean, I think it would have to come down to the size. If I'm a large company with many employees, I would
Mhm.
think that would be one of those things where, unless I had a fully functioning, IT department on
Right.
hand, obviously,
Yep.
and even then, yeah, I would think that that would be an ideal scenario where I could hire someone like you guys to come in and say, "Hey, take this over because I don't have the means or the wherewithal right now
Right.
to hire an entire dedicated department," right?
So that's why
That makes
Nate.
sense.
That's why Nate. There's more right now than ever. There's more fractional IT support than ever
Hmm.
because a lot of companies they can't afford an IT department anymore.
Right.
They may not even need an
Yeah.
IT department, or if they have one, maybe they can reduce the size a little bit and
Yeah.
have us come in. Remember, we're agnostic that way. We're not.
Yeah.
We come in with no agenda except for what the project is. We
Hmm.
go in, we solve, we show you, we get out. If you want us
Yeah.
around on the sidelines just to monitor things, we're going to be there for you. But there is no business. So the problem with businesses a lot of time we find is that there's a business culture. And we already know this with human nature. There's things going on in there that, you know, even the boss doesn't know. And they should know.
Sure. Yeah.
They should know
Yeah.
because if they had buy-in
Mm,
from the right people, then they would have this. But that's some of the shortcomings that we're finding. I hope that answers your question, is that
mm,
just to
yeah.
build that trust and to be able to get in and solve these problems. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Rick.
One one of the things that we always try to do is be that trusted advisor. That's the
Mhm.
position we're taking. We're not going to become a used car salesman. We're not there to make the quick hit and be in and be out. But we have added to our offering the idea that we are fractional. And by that, we're going to come in, we're going to be there when you need us, and then we're going to step away so that way you can still afford us without having to go broke, and
Yeah.
you can get the job done to your satisfaction, knowing that we're only a phone call away should you need us to come back for some reason.
Mhm.
And we've got many clients that fall into that category. That they say, okay, we've used you for a week here or 2 days there or whatever it might be, and then we don't hear from them for 2 or 3 months, and then they're going to give us a call back and say, hey, you know what, we needed to come in and finish working on this,
Yeah.
whatever that might be, whatever the task might be.
Yep.
So
That's super convenient, I would think, for some certain businesses. So that's a great service. All
definitely for
right.
the smaller ones, it's a
Yeah.
way for them to take advantage of having more knowledgeable people
Yeah.
and still be able to run their business without
They,
going broke.
exactly. They want to be proactive. They want to do what's right, but they don't want to have to, like maybe they can't hire somebody full time like that. So that's great.
Yeah, I'm in house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's talk a little bit about the multiplier effects here. What are the changes downstream when this is implemented well in a business? Mainly because, like we talked about, a lot of this is risk avoidance, but not necessarily, that's not necessarily the whole thing, right? So when a business owner, a founder gets into that, proactive mindset as far as technology is concerned, what would you say starts working in the business that they did not maybe expect?
I mean, with the IT tune-ups, when we're finished, they're going to know where the biggest security gaps are. They're going to know whether aging hardware is putting operations at risk. Are they compliant? And where automation can reduce some of their cost. And honestly, in the end, it's going to make everything better. It's going to make the team better because they're going to be focused on other things. I mean, even a bakery. They're there to make bread. They're there to make pastry. I mean, if you walk in, I mean, do you think they want to be worried about any IT operations, the scheduling, their billing, their operations, how much they're ordering? Nobody really goes into
Yeah,
business to do that.
this is the E-Myth book, right? That's what this is all
Yeah,
about. You don't
yeah.
you don't see that side of the entrepreneur.
And
Yeah,
they don't even
not until
want
you get
that.
into it.
Yeah.
And
Right.
Yeah.
if you're a manufacturer, that's the other issue that you have is that software for the operations doesn't talk to the software for billing. Like if you
Mm,
complete a part, how do you know it's completed, and where does that information go to the accounting department to now bill the customer? How does it get shipped out? I mean,
how do you know when to reorder?
all
Yeah.
this stuff that has
Yeah.
to tie in,
Yeah.
and at heart, we're integrators. So if you
Mm,
had to say, okay, well, what's that? It means integrating all this together to make it seamless.
mm,
So when somebody walks through that door and buys a loaf of bread, that's
mm.
all the operator needs to know, that you're going to make them happy. There's a smile on your face.
Right, right.
Everything's going good. The
Yeah.
smell's beautiful, and you
Hmm.
just a happy customer has left,
Yeah.
and they're coming back.
Yeah. Okay. So, Joe, keep me going along here with you. You mentioned that better onboarding, faster provisioning,
Mhm.
standardized employee setups actually help to drive retention within a
Yeah.
company. Probably, I'm guessing because it makes them feel confident that the company knows what the heck they're doing, right? That's part of the thing, right?
Yep.
Um,
Well,
First impressions.
there's other ancillary benefits.
Okay.
In some cases, they get better rates on their insurances
Uh,
because they have more efficient systems, or their systems are kept up to date and they're now compliant, so they're going to get a better rate.
mm.
Um, you know, there's other types of things that you wouldn't even stop to think of normally.
So Rick had just done
Okay.
a
Yeah.
Rick just did a presentation for the Better Business Bureau of Connecticut, the largest one
Yeah.
in Connecticut. Just happens to be that state, and definitely cybersecurity came up, and they were to have questions with Rick, but I think Rick found out that in addition to cybersecurity, that people are thinking of other things. And Rick, what would you say one thing that perhaps kind of shocked you, that didn't shock you, that people asked the question of, besides cybersecurity, obviously that's one of them, but you know, and these are businesses, right? All different sizes. What do you think stood out the most when you were done helping them that day? Kind of better
A lot of them
reflect.
wanted to know is if the systems they were using were sufficient in today's environment. Are they in the best position to continue making a profit? Um, that was part of the issue. They're saying, can you come in and evaluate what we have, so to tell us, you know, is our tool set good? Can we make any improvements? And
Mm.
this is a lot
With
of what we do too.
Were they asking like, should we implement AI to get better? Is that kind of like the
That was
underlying question
definitely
there?
one of the things,
Yeah.
and a lot of that's because of the hype that's in the news. Everybody, is saying, well, I should use AI.
Yeah,
Well,
of course,
yeah,
of course.
you can use AI, and that's fine. My theory is that think about the business purpose that you want to, what is it you want to achieve? Don't just use it just because somebody said it in the news. Think about something, and then look at the AI, and look at it to help you solve a problem.
It's
So
not just a
basically,
flashy new toy.
it's not the flashy toy.
That
It's about
everybody's
Yeah,
talking about.
what kind of business problem is it going to solve for me? And if you
Mhm.
yeah.
can't think of that, then don't bother. Don't waste your time. Um,
Mm.
but it's think about the business problem first, and then say, okay, what tool set can we use to fix that? And AI is definitely one of those things that you more than likely these clients can do. Uh, they can apply
So
it to fix their
so
problem.
I'm assuming then, Rick, that once they've worked with you, they've gotten their infrastructure up to snuff. That's a better time to implement AI than to kind of like, slapdash bolt it on top beforehand. So,
Never just bolted on top of something that
okay.
needs to be ripped apart. No.
Yeah.
Um, Recently, Joe and I were contacted by a mergers and acquisitions company that is looking to say, help us come in and clean up these companies. There's a company that needs to be sold, but
Nice.
their IT is in a mess. So we want to retain you to send you to the client, get them up to speed, so that way the acquiring company will have something worthwhile to invest in. So
Yeah,
Nate,
totally.
this is
he brings a whole nother facet into this, is that, yeah, there's been a couple of companies that have approached us that are buying or selling. And, how many companies in that position that are in that they, are their files up to date, software up to date? Like, who wants to buy a house that needs a coat of, like more than a coat of painting, or the roof has to be, in other words,
Oh yeah.
the more that's done, the better you look good when you're selling or acquiring,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yep.
and
Yep.
that's another service that we provide for companies that they just want to get their house in order, literally,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
they want to be in a position so when the lawyers are coming to make a decision, they have everything that they need, and so that's another reason why to do the right thing, to keep up these in your business, not because businesses are selling, but it's like at least have that mindset.
Yeah.
At least have the mindset. Are you ready for any type of change? Is a big change that's going to happen, or a little change that's going to happen? Some change. Just be ready.
Definitely. Yeah, and that goes back to kind of when I talk about visible, viable, and valuable, right? If you are building a viable business, that by definition makes it more valuable. After speaking to, business brokers and that, like they would data, right?
Yep.
Having data on the business, what it can do, a predictable pipeline, orders of magnitude more valuable than otherwise. So for sure. Um, all right. So, speaking of getting into that, um, um, if you're investing in proactive IT, visual operations, um, AI ready environments, going into, do you have an idea on what, from your perspective, people that you've spoken to, how that actually uh, affects the actual valuation? Have you heard numbers thrown out there at all, or?
Not anything
No.
specific. It
Yeah,
depends on the company and what
I
the
I mean,
condition is. So are they a $500,000 company? Are they a $10 million company? It's
yeah.
no, I
I,
haven't.
I just I just think that
But it's
it
it's obviously significant enough that it's worth their time and investment, though. Yeah.
And Joe
the,
brought up the
yep,
analogy comparing it to real estate, where
Yeah.
people are positioning the house for sale. They're
Yeah. Yeah.
staging it, right? It's a similar type of operation.
What
Hmm.
they told us is that by having that ability that we can provide for them,
Hmm.
it just makes one less thing they have to worry about. It just
Right.
makes
Right.
it's
Right.
just one thing that they can check off. It's like we were talking to some hedge fund people the other day, and they were talking to us and what value can we bring and how can we complement their business, and we did bring up the visual facility management, and we said, well, if these people are investing tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars into a business, literally a business, manufacturing business, would it behoove them, not like a big brother thing, but why would they want to be tied to that visual dashboard as well? And the answer is they would. They would want to, and they would be able to have all that information that the manufacturer themselves have, um, just to make
Oh,
sure, yeah, that they
yeah.
can keep up. And why, as a manufacturer, and you're getting this funding, why would you say no? If you're saying no, that's another clue. If they're saying
Mm.
no to something like that, might not be the people you want to give money to.
Yeah.
But if they're open and they say, sure, why not? I mean, we got nothing
Mm.
to hide. We tie into it and look at it and check your assets that you've invested $500
Mm.
million. You can see it yourselves. So we're going to see that's probably a whole nother realm that we're going to be able to help,
Yeah.
moving
Yeah.
forward.
Mm. Awesome. All right. So let's get into our rapid clarity round here. For Joe here, the single question every founder should be asking about their technology infrastructure this quarter.
Is it up to date? Is it doing what it's supposed to be doing for you?
Okay. Rick, the first step for a founder who has never done a structured IT assessment.
Hmm. First step basically is to express that they trust us looking into their system. That's like the very first step they have to take, is to at least express that trust.
Keys to the castle. Yeah.
Keys to the castle, yes.
Uh,
Let down that
um,
drawbridge.
yeah, yeah. Um, okay, Rick, again, what's one signal that tells you a business has crossed from acceptable risk into negligent risk?
Oof. Um, part of it's the company culture, that I don't care type of attitude,
Hmm.
believe it or not, is a first sign. And then when you start digging into it and you find out that yes, I don't care about updating these old systems, and so you find that attitude now um, invades or pervades, is pervasive across multiple systems, and now causes problems.
And Nate, it
It
actually
starts
goes
with the
back.
it starts with the human factor.
it goes back to further. So the university that we're familiar with, Rick, that we did a external penetration test, just to gather the basics, and we presented it to them, and they basically said that we'll take care of it, which means that they have to cover their bases. That's negligible. It's not anything we could do because we found out we're willing to help, and we would have done it at a really reasonable rate, but because they're trying to protect themselves, their titles, and whatever else is trying to protect, that's when it becomes a real issue. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so this could go to either of you or both. If a founder is going to invest in exactly one piece of operational infrastructure in the next 12 months, what would you recommend it be?
You mean besides having IT tune-ups in place?
Well, that's kind of like,
Because that's
in
number one.
today's environment, it's super important to take a look at and protect what you have. It's in the old days, when our grandfathers were around, they had little doors where the milkman would come and they deliver the milk, and the little door was outside your door. They would open it up, put a couple of milk bottles in, and then you could, from the inside, you could grab it. You remember this? Joe, remember?
Of course I do, but I'm not saying it.
But anyway, in today's environment, that's a security risk. You've got this opening into your house, right? So these are the type of things that you'd have to be looking for. So one piece of operational infrastructure is close and lock your doors, right? So yes, do that IT assessment. Look at your cybersecurity and make sure that you're protected. That's number one. Okay, now let's look at the process behind the firewall. Let's go take a look at everything. Let's make sure you're operating at the best capacity to give the best result. So
nowadays it's kind of table stakes, just you gotta have that.
It never was that way in the past, but these days that's the environment we live in.
So Nate, it's a lot to do, and we've all gone through this. And Simone, you know that as well. If you want to tie into things, you get codes on your phone, right? So we're going to send you a number, and make sure you put the number or address the number of bridges because you're not a bot, or So you got to. We think those are funny, but you got to have those, and different people will get different levels of security. So can you? Look, if the president is going to be an embezzler, okay, but at some point, everybody gets caught. Everybody gets caught, and if you have somebody like us, if you have a company like us that's set aside and not within the company, you're going to tend to probably do better. Because remember, we're just after the project. We're not protecting our jobs. We're not protecting anyone. We'll get paid no matter what because we're doing a job. So
you can tell the truth. You can tell the CEO or whoever's in charge the truth without worrying about.
You guys are the proverbial court jesters, in other words.
Well, security. I think we're more secure. Yeah. The court jesters. I don't know, but
we don't have the bells on our toes
though. We're security. Security sale.
Very good, very good. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys for joining us. It's been a great conversation. Good talking to you. So if there's one thing that I'd like listeners to take from the conversation, it's that operational infrastructure is not necessarily about cost. It's sort of like like we said earlier, like the table stakes. It's like the foundation on which you build everything else, right? You can't really grow anything on shaky ground, and so you can't really integrate AI, which everybody is wondering about, into a business that's basically held together by duct tape. And the founders who are getting this right don't treat IT and facility operations like something to handle after the fact, right? It's part of the work that they're doing currently, and so that it doesn't become an emergency later. If what Joe and Rick have shared today resonated with you, and you're realizing that your technology and facility infrastructure has been running on hope instead of a system, head to eigercreative.com. Their team works with companies across just about every industry to put structure beneath the operational machinery of the business. Rick and Joe are the people I would want in the room when these decisions are getting made. Yeah, so.
So, if this conversation made you realize that you are not sure where your biggest growth constraint actually is, whether it's your operational infrastructure, your sales process, or something else, take that growth ceiling assessment, and we'll put the link in the show notes at ghdunlimited.com. It only takes 5 minutes and helps you to see which part of your growth engine needs attention first. And also, before we go, we want to ask you to subscribe to the Growth Ceiling podcast wherever it is you listen, and share this with others, and also to let us know what your biggest takeaway was. Sorry, my mother's phone is ringing and she's not even here. Anywho, so thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.